Good morning from the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. Welcome to Consular Conversations and happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I'm your host, Camila. I'm very sorry for the delay, everyone. We had a few technological issues this morning, but we are so happy to be here with you all today. We are going to still wait a few minutes to give people the opportunity to tune in. While we do that, I will want to talk to my fellow guests this morning. We have Simone. Good morning, Simone.
Good morning.
And we also have Katie.
Good morning.
So, Simone, you are one of our locally employed staff. How long have you worked here at the embassy?
I've been working here for about 26 years this year.
And I hope a very happy 26
Yes,
years.
happy 26 years.
Good.
Thank you for your service. That's great.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
And Katie, you've been on Consular Conversations before.
I
Welcome
have.
back.
Thank you.
We're very happy to have you again.
Thank you.
And you know, like we always like to ask our guests, what's your favorite place to visit here in Jamaica?
Oh, that's pretty easy for me. I am a Portland girl. I love Port Antonio. I love the beaches up there. It's definitely our favorite spot here in Jamaica.
So I think it's about time to get started. So once again, this is Consular Conversations. My name is Camila, and today is a very special day because we not only have one, but we have two special guests. I'm joined today by our Immigrant Visa officer, Katie, and our locally employed staff member and a pillar of our Immigrant Visa section, Simone. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So just in case you couldn't tell by the introduction, today is going to be all about IV. We're going to be taking questions specifically and talking in general about medicals as well as medical ineligibilities, right? Before we get to all of your questions, of course, please make sure to feed those to us. Before we get to the topic of the day, Katie, if you wouldn't mind going over our current operating status in the consular section.
Sure, no problem. So the consular section is open. So all of our units, the non-immigrant visa section, the immigrant visa section, and our American Citizen Services unit, we are open. However, as has been the case for several months, we are operating at a limited capacity. And really, that is because we're still trying to help mitigate the spread of COVID. So, we're following all of the government of Jamaica protocols, and that means minimizing the amount of people that we're bringing in each day into the embassy. It's to protect our staff, but it's also to protect the public who's coming to visit us each day. But I will say we are doing a limited amount of appointments each day for all of those sections.
Thank you so much, Katie. As a reminder to our followers, please make sure that you do share the stream on all of the streaming platforms that we are currently on. And of course, remember to follow U.S. Embassy JA on Twitter and Facebook. Alrighty, so on to the topic of the day, medicals. So I think the first question we can get to is, what is the immigrant visa medical exam?
Sure. So the medical exam is required in order for you to go about your immigrant visa process. This is not something that's unique to Jamaica. Every country in the world that processes immigrant visas to the United States, this is one of the requirements that is part of the process. And it entails you essentially going and visiting a panel physician. Each country has a specific facility that you would go to complete your medical exam. In this case, it's Andrews Hospital. We have a panel physician there, and you would schedule your appointment and get your medical exam done there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Simone, if you wouldn't mind going over the documents that are needed in order to schedule your medical exam.
Okay. First and foremost, you're going to need a valid passport. You're going to need 4 passport size photographs. You're going to need your immunization card. If, however, you don't have your immunization record, that's no problem. You'll be assessed by the panel physician and then given the required vaccination. You'll also be required to complete the medical history form that is provided at Andrews if you didn't receive one from the embassy. And of course, your appointment letter, might be in the form of a letter from the National Visa Center, an appointment letter from the embassy, or I don't know if you can zoom in a little, a refusal sheet in the form of a checklist issued by the embassy that requests what the medical requested. So you provide that to Andrews Hospital, and then an appointment will be given.
And if I can also just jump in, I didn't say it earlier, but the medical exam, and this is true for everywhere, the medical exam is only good for 6 months. So as many of you know that are watching, the immigrant visa process is very paper intensive. You're always having to send in new documents and things like that. So please just be aware that this medical exam is only valid for 6 months. So some of your other documents may expire in the process, or, you might have to end up doing your medical exam again if we're still waiting for other things to come through from you. So please bear that in mind.
And as we talk about, immigrant visas and the applicants, we are including children, right? Children also do need to complete medical exams. And the expiration date is the same.
That's correct.
It is still 6 months. And also for those K-1 visa applicants, the confirmation sheet that you receive, right, when you apply for your K visa is also sufficient for you to schedule. Yes.
And I must add, in addition to the documents that you must provide, it costs for adults $27,395 for a medical exam and $10,385 for children. In addition, $20,000 to $25,000 is best to bring that along with you as well, because the vaccinations can run up to $25,000 per applicant.
And speaking of fees and of course expiration dates, if you do complete your first medical exam and our consular officers ask you for more documents, if you do not provide those documents in a timely fashion, your medical may expire during that time and you will have to pay for another medical exam. So we just want everyone to keep that in mind. So I'm sure now you are all eager to schedule your medical exams. When is it that they should schedule their medical exams? As in, what time frame should applicants be looking at to schedule them?
Well, typically we recommend that people schedule their appointments with Andrews about 2 weeks before they come and have their interview at the embassy. We know that that's not always possible. Sometimes we have emergency expedite cases, in which case, you'll show up to the embassy and you will perhaps, you haven't done your medical exam, but that's okay. But, generally we say 2 weeks before is ideal if you can schedule it.
And just to add, if you're flying in from overseas, please bear in mind that we have to adhere to the local COVID-19 protocols. You have to get here either 2 weeks prior to the medical exam appointment, or prior to the immigrant visa interview appointment, because you do have to do that 14-day quarantine.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And I think also to bring up, Andrews also has to follow their COVID-19 mitigation procedures, right? So that means that they are offering appointments, but they may be on a limited capacity. So as we ask with the embassy, please be patient with our panel physicians and Andrews when you are scheduling your appointment. Schedule it as soon as you can. And while we do recommend 2 weeks before, if you cannot do it 2 weeks before, that's okay. Schedule it as soon as you can. Okay. And Simone, as our medical guru and also one of the people who processes them the most, how long does it usually take for the medical exam results to come back to the embassy?
Well, ideally, it takes about 2 weeks for it to get here for us to receive the completed report. However, there are delays. Your medical report can be delayed due to outstanding vaccines, or a report that might be required for the panel physician to make a determination. They will request that the applicant obtain that report from the other medical facility or the practitioner who treated them previously. But you have to bear in mind that that report must be submitted to Andrews for them to review your case so that the complete medical report can be submitted to the embassy. In addition to that, you have people who are screened for TB. So if you're being screened for TB, your medical report will be delayed. And after that screening process is completed, then the medical report will be sent to us. Do not be dismayed if you're TB positive, because in that case, you'll just be treated at one of the 2 facilities here in Jamaica. Then the results will be sent to Andrews. You'll be screened again. And if you're cleared, the report will be sent to the embassy. And at that point, we'll reach out to you and schedule a new appointment. Be sure that you follow the instructions given by Andrews. You'll be given a letter stating that you're not to show up for your interview because you know TB is highly contagious. So we wouldn't want to have an outbreak.
Of course. And also, so that our applicants know, the package that comes from Andrews, as Simone said, if they were asking for additional documents, they cannot send us that package until you do so. So please make sure that you work with Andrews first. And also, so you all know, Andrews sends the results to us directly, electronically. So you do not have to worry about going to pick up your medical exam results and bringing them to the embassy. That's not something that is required. That is done electronically. And we've been talking a lot about medicals, but I think what we want to also touch on are medical ineligibilities, because sometimes those do occur here in Kingston, right? So if an immigrant visa application is refused because the consular officer determined that they are ineligible due to a medical ineligibility, and in particular, we see a lot of ineligibility due to a substance abuse. Katie, I think we can start off just talking and explaining what that means for the applicant.
Sure. So if you are determined to have a medical ineligibility, it was because when you went and did your medical exam, the panel physician found that you had tested positive for an illegal substance. So what does that mean? That means that you are ineligible for 1 year. Please know this is not a permanent ineligibility. But it is an ineligibility for a 1 year period where you will have to undergo a random drug testing. And the typical ones that we have seen here, just to share some of the common ones that we see, are generally for ganja or cannabis. So like I said, it's not a permanent ineligibility, but it does mean that for a 1 year period from that date of the exam, we will not be able to move forward with processing your case. And then I know Simone can kind of talk a little bit more about what is the random testing or in the processes, but I would just like to highlight that just because you have been found ineligible for that year doesn't mean that you can't be still working towards your visa process. So if the consular officer has also perhaps asked you for financial documents or other, things, you can still be sending that in to us and we can still be reviewing it. It just means that we can't actually issue a visa until that 1 year period has elapsed.
And Simone, if you want to talk a little bit more about the process once they are found medically.
Sure. How this works, on the day of your interview or after your medical report has been reviewed, if it is found that you are positive for cannabis in any way, and that means the use of cookies, teas, anything at all. So the consular officer issues a refusal letter, and it is upon the applicant, it's in the applicant's best interest to reach out to Andrews and schedule an appointment using that letter. That letter is used to initiate the random testing process. Now, how it works, Andrews will contact the applicant and schedule their random testing. Upon completion of the random testing, we will be notified and then we will request a complete medical exam.
That's right.
At that point. However, it should be noted that if during the course of random testing, you're tested positive, the 1 year bar or ineligibility will be recalculated using the most recent positive test.
Mhm.
So it's in your best interest to abstain
Yes.
from cannabis. Yes.
Yeah, and that is over a 1 year period.
Over a 1
correct?
year period.
And Katie mentioned, even though you are found, ineligible,
Mhm.
please do make sure that you send in those additional documents that the consular officer asked. And we, of course, are in constant contact. Correct. Yeah. So, if we send you a letter, it is upon you to go to Andrews and sign up for that random testing. So please, do so if that is the case. And of course, if that person is found to overcome that ineligibility, then we can process their case from there. But as our applicants know, some of our documents do have other expiration dates. So not only are you going to be asked to do another full medical, you may also need a new police certificate. And again, the embassy will be in contact with you to let you know what documents we will need from you.
That's right.
Okay. Well, ladies, that was great. Thank you so much for covering that topic. Now we're going to dive into some questions, and we actually do have a few medical questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump on those first, and then we'll
Okay.
see what other ones we can answer. Okay.
Sure.
So Nicole is asking, her son is 21 already and on her filing, but she hasn't gotten a medical date yet for him. Will this impact his filing? So I think what we can talk to Nicole about is just how if he hasn't received an appointment date, it may be he can't schedule his medical yet, right? And to keep checking with Andrews, correct? If they do have that appointment date.
What time was she mentioned he's already 21. She might want to reach out to Kingston IV at state.gov, because if he's 21, we might be able to determine if he's protected under the Child Status Protection Act first. And if that is so, and she has secured an appointment for herself, then if he is eligible under the Child Status Protection Act, we can go ahead and schedule an appointment for interview for him as well. And then she can use that appointment letter and secure a medical appointment for him at Andrews.
Right.
But they won't be able to do it without him being added to that appointment.
So the medical isn't impacted by, or I should say the medical is dependent on the interview.
Right.
It's not the other way around.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Let me see. Laverne is asking if a medical was done last year, but the visa was not issued. We had, several presidential proclamations that stopped a lot of our processing, right? She said that medical has expired. Do they have to redo the entire medical or just parts of the medical?
The medical will have to be redone in its entirety.
Right.
There is no doing a part of the medical. However, you won't be vaccinations that were already administered won't be re-administered, only if you're supposed to get another one in the series of vaccines.
Right.
You will then receive that additional vaccine or any boosters that are required, but that will be determined by Andrews, the medical professionals.
Yeah, but in general, it's
Yes.
the same medical exam that you'll have to redo.
Yes. And so we forgot to answer this question within the medical ineligibilities. Marlon is asking, marijuana is legal in some states. Why is it an ineligibility?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And, to be honest, a lot of our petitioners, ask the same questions. They say, I'm in a state in the United States that it's legal. Cannabis is legal in that state. However, the rule that we follow is we're following the federal law. And right now in the United States, it is still illegal on the federal level to to smoke marijuana, for example. So that's, we're falling into that category. So that just kind of helps you understand, we're not following individual state laws, we're following the federal law.
Thank you so much for explaining
Sure.
that, Katie. So earlier, Kirk from YouTube and Sammy were asking if there's a way that we can set up something so we can track their interview dates. So there currently isn't anything that we have set up, but we are always happy to take suggestions. Thank you so much, Kirk and Sammy, for that. And we, as we can, of course, because we are still working under limited capacity. As much as we can help you all, we are more than happy to do so. So Sachet is asking about the vaccine requirement. What about women who are pregnant and are concerned about getting vaccines at that time? I'm guessing Andrews would work with them, correct?
Well, under the immigration laws, if you're required to get the vaccines and you have concerns, you reach out to Andrews, and if you refuse to be vaccinated, then it will be an issue for the consular officer at the time of the interview, because Andrews has no control over that. They will still forward the medical and make that note, and then it will be up to the consular officer now to explain to you what will be the repercussions under U.S. immigration laws. And then there are ways to mitigate that, but at the time of the interview, you will discuss that with the consular officer.
Yeah, that's right. And I would just say that, we try not to answer direct questions. So, we would be happy to, I'm sorry, I forgot who the name of the person who asked, but if you send an email to kingstoniv@state.gov, this is certainly not the first time that we've heard about somebody in your situation, having some concerns, based on your situation. So we're always happy to discuss this, and there are processes in place that we can work with. Okay.
So veering a little from medicals, but still in the immigrant visa realm, police certificates. So we have two questions on police certificates. One is age-based and the other is for validity. So I think we can answer both in one.
Sure.
So the first question is from Nicola on Facebook. She said when she filed for her daughter, she was only 15, but is 17 now. Will her daughter need a police certificate?
Yes. So anybody who is 16 years or older requires a police certificate for the country that they live in. I would also highlight that, if you have spent time in another country, for a long period of time, I know a lot of Jamaicans have ties to the UK or to the Caymans. So we see people who have spent, months or years in those locations. You would also need a police certificate for that. But anybody 16 years or older, and I would just highlight that this is not unique to Jamaica. This is any country in the world. It's a requirement for the immigrant visa.
And then the second question from Bree, which I think Simone can tackle pretty well, is just asking about police certificates being valid for a year, because she was approved last year, but was obviously never issued. Will she need a new police certificate?
Yes, you will, as long as the police certificate is expired and it's only valid for 1 year. You will need a valid police certificate to enter the U.S. or for the visa to be issued. A valid police certificate is required.
Yeah, so I would just remind everybody, remember the medical is only good for 6 months. The police certificate is only good for 1 year. So you can see how dynamic, those dates can be, and the importance of really trying to make sure you get everything turned into us in a timely manner so that we can get you out the door without having to renew a police certificate or having to renew your medical exam.
And I must add, since we're dealing with the police certificates and documents that expire after a year, we might also reach out to you and ask you to resubmit your DS-360 online application form as well. So we will be reaching out to those applicants who were interviewed last year, and it's been over a year. We will be reaching out to those applicants to resubmit.
So Simone, it's almost like you heard Faye from Facebook, because she's asking about the rescheduling of those IB interviews from March of last year. Are they currently being rescheduled now?
Okay, if your appointments, if your appointment for interview was cancelled due to the COVID-19 or presidential proclamation that was rescinded on the 24th of February of this year, we're in the process of rescheduling those appointments. But again, we have limited capacity and we're doing our best. We are aware that you're anxious and we're doing our best to facilitate those applicants.
And I would also just highlight that although it seems like we're only taking a few appointments a day, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. You know, the afternoons we're just reviewing old cases and seeing what we can do without having to bring you in. So if we're reaching out asking for a new police certificate or a medical exam, it's because we're trying to move some of these cases forward without having to bring you in. So because we do have that cap on how many people we can be bringing in each day. So just know that there's that too.
Okay. And I think we'll take one final question, though it does come from two different people. Gracie and Claudia. Simone, you brought up the Child Status Protection Act. Would you mind explaining a little bit how that works?
Okay. How it works, if the petition is filed with USCIS. We use the date the petition was filed. We also use the date the petition was approved. Also, we use a number of months or whatever time period the applicant has been waiting. We do use a formula, so all that data is inputted into a formula, and that will determine if the person is CSPA eligible. However, you have to take action on the case within a year after the case being available for you to do an interview. So taking action might be maybe paying your application fee, providing documentation. But that too, if you need further information on that, please feel free to email kingston.iv@state.gov where we can look at your case individually.
Right. And I would just kind of add, you know, the purpose of this Child Status Protection Act is because we realize that the immigrant visa process can be a long time, or it might be years before, you know, you finally get called up for an interview. And children are, you know, they're growing, and right. So you might have been 18 at the time, and then, you know, next thing you know, you're 21. So it was a way for us to essentially freeze your age because you have already submitted all your documents and you filed the petition. But, you know, it might be years before we actually get to see you. So it's just a mechanism for us to honor the fact that they were a child when this happened and they can still move forward with the visa process.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for coming in. To our viewers, especially our non-immigrant visa viewers, I'm very sorry we were not able to get to your questions today, but as always, if you do have any questions on your case, please feel free to email kingstonniv@state.gov. And of course, if you have an immigrant visa case, please make sure to email kingstonniv@state.gov. Simone, Katie, it was a joy having both of you.
Thank
Truly.
you. This was great.
It's been a pleasure.
Make sure you all tune in for our next Consular Conversations on June 16th. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.